Oh, now you're talking.
Well, I mean, I alluded to this before, and I was being really sincere. You know, I mean, you can imagine what it's like to be in this town, and obviously, great lineage. His dad, very important to the history of the music and in the Hall of Fame. And these upstarts, you know, who get a little organization together to try to make the city appreciate the music and try to. It was actually getting killed by rock and roll, you know, and this is the genesis of the CMA. We used to be part of that. And so I can only imagine if they're sitting around. I mean, Dick Frank tells me you guys were having board meetings in hotel rooms and sitting on beds and just kind of putting this patchwork together. And as I said, no kidding. Somebody thinks it's a great idea for exposure for the music to go build this pavilion in New York. And, you know, Francis Preston and Bill Denny were both involved in that process. And I think Francis went up there, right, and came back and said, God, it's expensive to do that. So these guys have the guts to say, hey, let's build something here. The building on Music Row costs $750,000. And we're looking at 90 for an expansion, 90 million, right?
Wow.
The other thing that Bill did for us is he really understood that the culture was important. And not only was it important for, you know, because it was here, but he understood that, you know, these songs and stuff we listen to really tell the story of the country. And it is blue-collar music. And so Bill was very instrumental in forming the Country Music Foundation, which ended up moving away from CMA, which really were the beginnings of what we're doing here. I talked to you about this collection. You know, if he hadn't really been spearheading that, we probably wouldn't have been collecting anything. If we hadn't been collecting anything, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. If they hadn't figured out that they needed to build a permanent thing in Nashville, I don't know what would be over there, but it wouldn't be a museum drawing 500,000 visitors a year. The other stories I could tell you are about Bill being on the finance committee. And he's been on the finance committee for as long as I have been there. And how should I say this?
Sure.
Gee, he's active on that committee. It's great. I mean, he's our conscience, you know, and he's a good business guy, and it's so important to have all this institutional history, memory still associated with the place, you know. So, doesn't take compliments very well, but I shudder to think, you know, well, I don't think it would be there. I don't think we'd be there if it hadn't been for the vision of these guys early on. Bill was leading that charge.
He also